Alright, how's it going everybody? My name is Infamous Isaac. I hope y'all are having a great day today. I'm here with a video on Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe, a couple of one-shot manga adaptations from Hirohiko Araki that got turned into anime by Netflix. I think it came out like 2020, 2021. I never got around to watching them, but I know a friend of mine recommended it to me because I like JoJo's. So he was like, yeah, shoot, give him a look, see how you feel about him. These all take place in the same setting for part 4. So if you haven't watched part 4, then I highly recommend it because this hinges on you knowing what that part is about. So without further ado, let me get into the non-spoiler review for this, and then after that we'll get into the spoilers. So my opinion on this 4 episode anime, it's a 6.5 to a 7. The best parts of it felt like a JoJo's episode, and for the worst part, they just felt really boring for me. And I'm not trying to drag it down if you do enjoy it, it just isn't for me. When I looked at all 4 of these episodes, I recognized 2 of them because I did see some of them before because they were popular. Every episode 1 through 4 always had that beginning where I was bored and then the end where I was super invested. And it lessened as the episodes went on, like episode 4 for me being my favorite. It's not that I didn't enjoy it at all. It's just that compared to other parts, it's not really something that I'm gonna come back to, which is perfectly fine because it isn't a JoJo's part. This is a small story contained in a JoJo's part. It would be super unfair to judge it as a mainline JoJo's part because they have more time to flesh out their characters and story. Well, this is a one shot, 4 different one shots at that matter. So I'm just gonna judge it like a singular story. A singular self contained story for part 4, and only for that. So overall, if I had to say my opinion, it's not for me. If you liked it, then I understand why, because people like part 4 a lot, and I understand that as well. So seeing those characters again is pretty cool. It's animated by David Productions too, so it has amazing animation. For 4 episodes, it has a good soundtrack. And overall, the main character is super engaging, and the stories, they do get better as the episode goes on. So I'm gonna give it a 6.5 to a 7 because I can see myself coming back like maybe once or twice, but it just isn't for me as of right now. And let me know down below if you enjoyed it. Would I recommend it? Honestly, it depends. If you watch part 4, yeah, I would recommend it. If you haven't, nah, I wouldn't. But besides that, I'll move on to the spoilers. So before I say anything, know that I will be spoiling Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe. If you don't want to be spoiled or if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend leaving this video now and coming back later if you want to. But without further ado, let's begin. So episode 1 out of the 4 episodes is about Rohan going to Italy. He was talking to Koichi and Koichi was going to Italy as well, but this was before part 5, setting up for the events of that. And so Rohan decides to tell Koichi a story about the time he went to Italy and he went to a confessionary, right? He accidentally got into the priest's booth of the confessionary and heard somebody confess something. And this is the setup for basically all of the stories for episode 1 through 4. It's Rohan telling stories about events that he's gone through. And this one is basically him listening to a guy confess that some guy is haunting him because he, in a sense, led to this death, right? It was a homeless man who wanted some food, and this guy was like, no, you work for it, right? And the homeless man died because he was crushed under the weight of a sandbag. And so he started haunting him. And the homeless man led to this guy getting rich, becoming a billionaire, basically, because he sold corn products. And so as he grew a family, became a father, and all that, he was out with his daughter, and then the homeless man struck, right? He was like, listen, if you can get 3 balls of popcorn into your mouth by throwing them up into the air, then you win. I'll let you live. But if you don't, then I'll kill you. And so he manages to do 2, but then he loses the 3rd one and he dies, right? And so we're wondering, all right, if he died, then how was he in the confessionary? And it turns out it was the butler who was in the confessionary. So to clarify one thing, the person in the booth is the butler, but the butler wasn't the one that led to that homeless man's death. It was the father. And the butler was there ever since the guy got rich. So he was walking with him and his daughter and everything, and that's how it led to the butler being haunted by the man and by the homeless man. So after that, he leaves the confessionary booth. So now the butler leaves, and Rohan's like, I respect this guy. A lot of people may not say that, but I respect him. In this episode, I didn't really like that much. I thought the ending of it in the game was kind of cool, but overall, to me, it's definitely the worst episode of all the episodes here. But putting that aside, we move on to the second episode, where we meet Rohan at a cafe. He's talking to his editor, and Rohan's talking about how he's flat broke right now because he bought multiple mountains for a story. The reason why he bought those mountains, though, was because they were going to be turned into a resort, but he didn't want that. But because they aren't a resort anymore, their prices, their stock plummeted, so they're not worth anything anymore. But the other reason why he wanted those hills was because he heard of a story of a young couple. And that young couple, they were living together for a little bit, but the girl had an arranged marriage happening. And the guy was like, so we're done? It's over? And then she was like, yeah, I'm sorry, but you have to leave. And so he tries to hug her, saying like, please, like, let's just think this over. And she backs off of him and he slaps her. And so she pushes him away from her onto a pile of golf clubs, and this instantly kills him due to blunt force. And so she's trying to hide the body, but her dad and her fiance are outside waiting for her. Her dad leaves, her fiance's there waiting for her, and she's just trying to hide the blood, but it just keeps spilling out. And so the fiance goes through to see if everything's all right, and she manages to hide the body well enough to dissuade any suspicion that he had. And so he leaves and he's like, I'll be waiting for you over there, all right? Ever since that fateful encounter and her killing him, she's been taking all the blood that's been spilling out from him and putting it in bottles and throwing it away, basically. And she figured out that if she sprays the body, that it kind of regains that human visage of like, I still look alive and everything. But he still keeps spilling blood. And it's to the point where she had a baby with that dead body somehow. And Rohan shows up to this point. Rohan shows up trying to investigate the hills because they're trying to buy it from him, but he denies it every time. And the daughter of that woman, she shows up and she's like, yo, you're Rohan. I know you. And then Rohan's like, wait, what are you talking about? And she trips and falls because Rohan pushed her a little trying to catch up to her. And she just dies. And so Rohan's like, yo, she's fading fast. Her blood is gone. I need to do something. And he uses Heaven's Door to resuscitate her, basically. And so she's alive, perfectly fine. He wrote it so she doesn't know who Rohan is whatsoever. And she goes back to her home. And Rohan just leaves completely, not wanting any of that nonsense. This episode I did know about. I didn't know the plot of it, but I did see that young couple before. But next we move on to the third episode where we have Rohan and another girl from his editorial office. They're talking and she's just like, yo, if anything, you should go to this one place, Millionaire Hill. Apparently it's a place where if you go there, you can build your affluence and just become a millionaire, right? And so Rohan's like, why would I go there though? I don't really care about being a millionaire. And she's like, I would fit the bill better, And if anything, because I'm going there and I fit the bill, then you can write a story about that since you need some material, some inspiration. And so what I mean by fitting the bill is that people go over there when they're 25, and since this editor girl is 25, she wants to give it a try. He's like, all right, sure, I'll go. And then they both go, they show up, and they're greeted and everything. And the test already begins because they need to be indoctrinated in, right? The girl is trying her best to be and have a bunch of manners and just have a lot of etiquette, right? But she fails immediately because she broke three rules. She stepped on the line of the carpet, like there's outer lines of it, and she stepped on them. She sat on the farthest corner of the chair when she's supposed to sit near the entrance of the room, and she held the teacup wrong. She put her finger through the hole of the teacup through the handle when she was supposed to hold it by the handle and not put her finger through. And so, because of that, a stand kicked in, and her mother and her boyfriend died, her fiance. And then a chick that they picked up outside of the house died as well, that was in Rohan's pocket. And so, Rohan, seeing this, she's like, yo, listen, we need to leave. And then she's like, no, please just give me one more chance to make this up. And so the kid's like, all right. And so the kid who's also the butler and the one overseeing this entire test is like, all right, let me go bring it up with my master. He comes back and he's like, yeah, so that's another one that you just broke, another rule of etiquette. And the rule was basically don't beg. That's rude. And so because of that, she had a heart attack and she's dying right now, right? And Rohan decided like, yo, listen, she genuinely just wanted to help me out. I need to do something, right? And so Rohan's like, all right, I'll take the test instead since that was only for her. And so he does, and he's presented with the test. How do you eat a corn on a cob, right? How do you eat it politely? And so he realizes like, all right, I know what I'm gonna do. And so while she was having a heart attack and before the test began, he used Heaven's Door to look into the kid's mind to understand what was happening. And during that, he wrote into it, forget about the corners of the rug, forget about like the lining. And so because the kid didn't notice that, he's been stepping on them the whole time. And Rohan pointed it out. And the way he ate it was by using his hands. And he was right, that's how you do it. And so the kid's just like, he's brought all this misfortune upon himself. And so Rohan's like, all right, where's my bonus? I have so many things going right for me right now. And so the girl's back alive, the bird is back alive, and her family's back alive. So now they're like, all right, well, we're leaving. We're not staying at all. I'm done. And so they leave, not looking back. And every time the story ends, it's always Koichi, Josuke, and Okuyasu at the table. The first one had Yukiko next to Koichi and Okuyasu. Josuke wasn't there. The second one had the alien and then the smaller guy with like that weird 80s haircut from Japan show up. And then this one just had Josuke Okuyasu and Koichi show up. And by the way, Josuke doesn't say a word in any of these episodes. I think that they just didn't get their voice actor for this, but he was silent the whole time. And I wish he said something because that would be funny. But next we move on to the final episode, and the best episode in my opinion. The third one was my second favorite, but this one is the best one because I know this one. This one was one of the most popular, if not the most popular, from this short. And so basically, it's a simple plot that this actor Yoma, he gets scouted by some random woman who's like, "Yo, you have a beautiful face and a nice body. If you train it, then people will notice you and they will start to know your name, right?" And so because of some one-shot magazines that he did, he got popular and got casted for a movie. But because of her message, she was like, I have to get better, I have to get stronger, right? And so they got a trainer for him, and he trained for a week for the role, and he did great, and he got addicted to it. And so once he went back to his girlfriend's house, he started bringing over workout equipment and just getting stronger and everything, right? And his girlfriend was like, hey, listen, can you like put that stuff away while I'm here? You know, like this is my house at the end of the day, right? And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll work on that. And then she makes spaghetti for them, but he's like, listen, I can only eat stuff for protein, right? For my diet. And she's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll make it for you. And then it just spirals out of control to where Rohan meets him and they have a friendly competition and everything. And he gets obsessed with it, right? And so it just starts festering in his mind. He needs to get stronger. He needs to build his muscle. He needs to beat Rohan, right? And so it infects his relationship, and now his girlfriend's just like, please, just like stop this, you know? You're taking money from me, you're using my credit card. And he's just like, yo, listen, I'm sorry, I'll pay you back when I get my next role, right? And she's just like, just leave. Please just leave. And so once he leaves, he meets Rohan, and apparently they had a competition beforehand where they were running on treadmills. And the first person to reach 25 miles per hour grabs the button on the table and presses stop, right? And Rohan won by a split second decision because he tipped the controller a little bit and it fell into his hand. And Yoma lost because of that. And so he just kept training and training and training. And now he's taking this competition super seriously. And his body starts morphing so he looks like Hermes, the Greek god. And so once they reach 25 miles, Rohan realizes, like, yeah, this dude is crazy. I need to win. But Yoma manages to beat him, but Rohan wrote it into his brain that, like, yo, you press the button, but only for my treadmill. And because of that, Yoma goes flying out of the building. But Rohan knows, like, yo, that man is probably still alive. And if I look down out there, he's going to want to kill me. So I just have to leave no matter what. And he leaves. And by far, that was my favorite episode for sure. It didn't even have Josuke or anybody at the end of it. It was literally just Rohan, I think, at the most current day. And that's the end of Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe. And what's interesting about this is the timeline inconsistencies. Because in the third episode, the lady that's helping Rohan has a tablet and she's using Google Maps. But they also say that it's 2011 in this time period, which makes no sense because part 4 took place in the 90s. And Koichi left for Italy in 2001 because that's when part 5 takes place. So if all this is going on, then how is that possible? But now with JoJo Lands, with, by the way, if you don't want to hear spoilers for JoJo Lands, I'll put a timestamp so you can skip. But JoJo Lands has Rohan Kishibe in there. And so people are theorizing, like, alright, maybe Rohan in JoJo Lands is the Rohan from Thus Spoke Rohan Kishibe. Because in part 6, you gotta remember that the universe was reset. So it's either the Irene universe or the part 7 and part 8 universe, which from what I can tell, those are different universes. It's weird. Let me know down below what your thoughts are on it. Put a spoiler tag too so people don't get spoiled. But that's the end of the JoJo Land spoilers, don't worry. But overall, this was a nice short 4 episodes. In the beginning, I was like, this is alright. But as I mulled over and I saw the final episode, I was like, you know what, this isn't too bad. So it's a 6.5 to a 7. Again, I would recommend it to people that do know JoJo's and part 4 more specifically. But overall, that's my thoughts and opinions on it. I thought the English dub was good. It was serviceable for sure. I thought the music was good. I thought the animation was great. David Productions just always cooks with the animation. I thought Rohan was a great main character to follow. I just enjoyed my short time with him. But that's going to be the end for this video and also the end for the little JoJo's binge that I've been on. So thank y'all for watching. I hope y'all enjoy. I'm going to be doing a couple of movies because Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is finally on Disney Plus. So I'm going to be watching that. I'm going to watch the Christmas special. And I was going to be talking about a couple things, you know, before I move on to another main series. But I'll see you all in the next video. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching as always. And until next time, peace.